Hi everybody, I'm Oliver from Blendtuts.com, and in this two parts tutorial I'm going to show you how to model nuts and bolts in Blender. Alright, in this part we are going to model the nut, in the next part we are going to model the bolt and make the final render. So it's not probably a particularly complex model, but it's indeed a little bit tricky, right, because of the screw. So we're going to see some little tricks and tips to modeling and using some techniques and modifier to make it. So let's start with it. Here I have a reference photo from nuts and bolts. I really recommend you to check out for references if you are going to model something that exists in reality, because sometimes we try to model stuff from our memories, and a lot of times then we realize that they look weird or something looks like it's missing, and it's a lot of times because we don't really remember all of the little features of the real object. Okay, so I recommend you to analyze a reference photo before you try to model it and mimic it in 3D. So let's analyze the nut, which is the part that we are going to model in this first part of the tutorial. So as you can see, we have a hexagonal shape, right? And this hexagonal shape transfers to a circular shape, which is in the top and the bottom of the nut. Okay, then there is a diagonal transition here until we reach the thread, all right, the screw of the nut, which is probably the most tricky part that we are going to make in this tutorial. So the screw is like probably 4 or 5 threads, all right? So I will make it 4, and let's see if we have something else. Okay, we need to keep in mind this shape here is not completely hexagonal. It does some kind of little curve in which this part here almost touches the top, while this part generates this little feature here, which is a little curved. Okay, we need to keep that part in mind because it's probably one of the parts that define the most the shape of the nut. So this said, let's remember what we need to keep in mind is an hexagonal shape transferring to a circular shape in the top and the bottom. Then we have 4 threads in the screw, and finally the sides of the nut are this shape. Okay, so let's go for the modeling. Okay, let's start for the first step we almost always start with, which is deleting the cube. Okay, now add a cylinder, and in the vertices panel we insert 6, right, to make it already hexagonal. Now we probably want to make this a little bigger, okay, so we can model comfortably. Let's put it in some rounded number like 4, and make the depth like I don't know, 3 maybe. Yeah, this would be a nice measure, maybe a little less, like 2.5. Okay, I think this measures would be nice for the nut. Okay, so let's go to the edit mode, and let's start by cutting this through the half, like Control R, and just add here a division. We can slide it, but if we press right click, we cancel it and it's left on the middle. All right, so now we can just select these vertices, press X, delete the vertices, and we deleted the bottom half of the nut. We do this because now we are going to the modifiers, add a modifier, mirror, deactivate X, and activate Z, so it's mirrored in the Z axis, which means that we only need to focus now on the top part, and the bottom part will automatically reflect our changes in the top part, right? So this will save us half of the work, which is really nice. Okay, so now let's go for the basic shape of the nut, which is with the hole in the middle. So let's press I, scale down. This is for insetting the geometry, something like that. Okay, this will represent our hole, so for the screw. So let's go here and activate clipping. All right, let's make this a little bigger. All right, so when we activate clipping, it means that the plane that in which the mirror is happening, if we drag vertices, you will see it right now. When some vertices touch the middle, where the mirror is happening, it will stop there. Okay, if we deactivate clipping, it will go to the other side and something like this would happen. But if we activate clipping, it will stop there, and if we apply mirror, the vertices will be merged, which is exactly what we want. So press E to extrude down there and just delete these faces, right? The face in the middle. So we already have our hole, and these vertices would be merged with the bottom part of the model, which is now mirrored. Okay, so now we need to make this part circular, right? For that, we are going to use an add-on which is called Loop Tools that comes with Blender since a long time ago. So press Ctrl-Alt-U and make sure you have it activated. So here we write loop, and here it is, Mesh Loop Tools. And I have it activated. You need to make sure that this is activated so you have the options. All right. Now I need to divide this to create some more divisions, because we will need here another division to make this curved shape in the sides, and also to make the circular shape here more defined. So we could go ahead and press Ctrl-R to divide this one by one. But in this case, I'm going to go with a different approach, which is just selecting these loops with Alt and right click into one edge to select the whole loop, and with Shift we can add more loops to the selection. So we have this loop selected, and now we can press W, subdivide, and we already have all of them subdivided. We can increase the number of cuts as much as we want. Okay, with this we could achieve a greater amount of detail, but with one I will have enough for now. Right? I want to keep the model very simple, because then if we need to make some changes, it becomes a little hell. Okay, so if with less polygons you can define the shape, don't use a lot of them. Okay, so we have this. Now we need to make this circular. So we select these two guys, and here let's go to Loop Tools, which are right here, and press the circle option. And as you can see, we already have a circle there. Now we need to go here, Ctrl-R to divide this. Keep in mind that when you divide with Ctrl-R, you can drag the scroll wheel in the mouse to increase or decrease the amount of divisions, all right? But here with one, for now, is enough. So left click to apply it, and right click to leave it in the middle. And we are going to do the same. Press circle here, so it's circular. And now we are going to scale this circle until this vertex is almost touching the side vertex, all right? But not surpassing it like this, but keeping it inside, but very, very close. Okay, so let's make sure. Okay, it's very close, but it's not touching it, and it's not surpassing it. Okay, so this circle will define the circular shape of the top with this one. Okay, these ones will define the circular shape on the top, while these ones are going to define the hexagonal shape of the outer part of the nut. Now, the next part we need to do is to define a little the curve we have in the sides. So let's select the corners, okay, and drag them down with set and something like this. So as you can see, we almost have the shape for our nut, but it's very low poly now. So let's apply a subdivision surface to see how it looks. And well, we can see that it doesn't really look so good. Okay, this is very smooth. We can't see the corners here. It's not very defined. It's very curved. So let's keep adding some detail here. Here, if we remember, we had a little beveling, all right? So we can do it by going to W and pick the bevel here, or we can just press Ctrl V and drag. So we have a bevel there, right? Something like this probably, 0.2. We can write the amount of beveling. So if we need to make another beveling in another part of the nut, we can do it exactly the same, all right? We just need to remember the number, all right? That's it. And now we need to define a little the sides. So let's go right here and press I. And let's do it something like this, which is not very far from the borders, something like this. And just go here and deactivate boundary. So this way it won't have in account this border here. And now we can just select the other side and press Shift R to repeat the same operation, and do this with all the sides. Remember, Shift R to repeat the latest operation. So this way we don't need to really do the inset over and over again. We just do it once and then apply it to the rest of the sides. So here, as you can see, we have a more defined shape. Now we need to go here and define better the circular shape here. So what I'm going to do is to just create here a loop with Control R and drag it very close to this outer one. And now let's create another one and drag it very close to this one. So as you can see, now we have it much more defined. Okay, we can see here the circular shape. Okay. This here, we are not going to define it yet because later we are going to add the screw here. So I prefer to define it once we have the screw already placed in there. Okay, so we could define this even more by adding more loops. Okay, as you can see, this shape here is defining even more, but I don't think that's really needed. Okay, it's pretty, I think it's okay like it's now. Now, this thing here is not really defined, this corner, right? First, let's go here and in the shading, press smooth, so we don't see that polygons. And we need to define this corner. What we can do is just press Control R, divide this, and do something like this. And there we go. There we have a really nice corner. So we have the outer part of the nut already defined. Now we need to go to the screw, and later we add the screw to this one, to this model, and later we can even define it a little more in the inside part and all that. So what I want to do is to just deactivate here in the viewport in the edit mode the surf modifier. I'm going to pick this. Okay, I'm going to divide these ones, and later you will see why this is for. I select these two loops here with Alt and right click, press P, and separate this selection. So now we have this this object is a different one, which is the one I'm going to use as a reference for creating the screw. So let's send this one to the second layer. And this one, the nut shape, I'm going to duplicate it, all right? Press left click to cancel the movement and send it to the third layer, right? Why I do this? Because in the next part of the tutorial, we are going to create the bolt, right? And I'm going to create the bolt reusing some things we are going to do for this for the nut, because basically the top of the bolt, the top part of the bolt is exactly the same shape as this one, all right? But this is closed here, and from this hole here, it would be the screw going out. So we are going to use this shape, and then when once we have the screw, we are going also to duplicate it and send it to the third layer. So in the next tutorial, we can reuse them, mix them to create the bolt. All right, that will make sure that the measures are correct, are exactly the same between the nut and the bolt, and that the screw, even if it's not really important in 3D for some for our our purpose, which is only show a beautiful render of some nuts and bolts, but they would fit. All right, the screws would fit one with the nut one with the bolts one. So that's not really important, as I say, but it will saves us a lot of work. So that is pretty worth it. So with this done, now we are going to the second layer and focus only on this on the screw. As I said, we are going to use this model here as a reference for the measurements of the threads of the screw. So let's apply the mirror and delete the subsurface. We don't need it, right? And we have this little model. Okay, the reason why I divided it 4 times is because we are going to have 4 threads, and this way I can make sure that the threads are the correct measures, because this one fits exactly with the hole we made on the nut, all right? And these 4 divisions will fit exactly in that hole. So I'm going to, with 1 in the numpad to the front, and just select this edge here. Wow, it's not selecting the right one. Okay, we have that edge selected. So press Shift D to duplicate it and press right click to cancel the movement so it sticks there, right? Because this way we also have the correct rotation diameter, right? Radius for the screw. So let's press P and selection. This way we will have a new object, which is only the this edge, which is going to be the edge from which we are going to generate the screw. So this said, we know that we need to know the measure of this length, of the length of this edge, so we can move it up there. The reason is because if we start the screw here, it will do something like this. It will start and do something like this. Okay, and this part here will be empty. So we need to cover this part, and we are going to do it by placing the edge here. So when it screws down, it will always fill that area, all right? So let's delete that frame, okay? So we need to go to N, and down here we should have mesh display, and let's activate edge length. And this way, let's press Control Space to hide the manipulator. We can see that the length of this edge is 0.525, right? So we know that if we move this edge, this amount up, the bottom vertex will stick right in this point, okay? This vertex here will stick in this point. So we need to move it up. Well, and I will stop drawing weird arrows here. Okay, so I select the edge, and I press G set to move it in the Z axis, and now I write down 0.525. Enter. And now if we press Control Tab to switch to the vertices, we can see how this vertex fits exactly with the top of the shape, which is exactly what I wanted. Now I will delete these arrows and press, well, not yet. We are going to make the screw because, well, we can remember, okay, that this value is 0.525, right? It's not a very difficult value. So let's just go to Mesh Display again and deactivate this one. Now we need to just divide this, and I'm going to divide it like 4 times. So press W, subdivide, and here number of cuts 3. So I have 1, 2, 3, and 4 divisions. With this one, we are going to draw the profile of our screw. So let's just bring this down a little, move this to like this, and scale them down like this, right? The reason why I have here 2 vertices is because they are going to define better this little corner in the screw, okay? So something like this would be enough. And let's check how it looks like. So for now, let's select this mesh here and press H to hide it. So we go here and add a modifier, which is going to be the screw modifier, and just press N. So as we can see, what I did here was applying this screw modifier, which is rotating 360 degrees. We can just define the amount of rotation that we want, right? 360 is the one that we want. And if we remember, if we go to the first layer, we can see that if we count them, we have 12 divisions, right? This loop here that I selected, well, this is not a loop, this is a ring. You can select rings by pressing Control, Alt, and right click in one edge. So this ring is 12 divisions. So we need to keep that amount of divisions so later we can so it fits this amount of vertices here. We need to keep that in mind. So let's go out from the edit mode. Let's go again to the second layer. And here now we can see here that we have 16 steps. This is not correct, so let's put it on 12. This means that when it rounds the shape, Blender will divide it in 12 steps, all right, which is sadly what we want. Now, this is only circular. We need to make it to be like a screw. So what I need to do is to just bring this up or down, as you can see, so it creates some kind of spiral. Now, the amount that we need to move it is exactly the same height of this edge, which is 0.525. And there you have it. Now, instead of that, it should be minus because we want it to go down. Okay? And now with the amount of iterations, we define how many repetitions we have. So 4 won't be enough probably, right? We probably need 5 because otherwise this bottom part, it will happen the same as happened here where we move the edge up here, right? So maybe we need another iteration. We are going to press Alt-H to make sure it's true and go set to see the wireframe, and let's go to the front. And as you can see, we have this empty space here. All right, so we need to add another iteration like that so we cover the entire hole. All right, so now we can select this again and press H to hide it for now. So we already have the screw shape. Now, this is something that you probably don't know, but you can modify the original shape and it will change the whole screw, which is pretty cool. But I think this one looks cool enough for the purpose. All right, so we have the screw shape. Now, what we need to do is to, well, I remember one thing that the other day when I made the test, someone commented that, hey, Oliver, did you notice that your nuts are left-hand threaded? I don't remember how it's said, but well, they are the opposite way. So if we have a nut with this kind of screw, we should need to rotate the bolt into this direction to plug it. And that's the opposite to the reality, all right? In reality, we should make the screw in this direction. So for that, I'm going to do, it's solved very, very quickly, right? It's not really important, but that comment made me feel like I didn't really notice that thing in the references. So here we have 360. What we need to do is to make it rotate in the opposite direction. And we already have exactly the same thing, but happening in the opposite direction, all right? So this way we would need to rotate it to the right to plug the bolt into the nut, all right? So just a little detail. Now we have it, so we press, instead of pressing apply, I almost forget it, we are going to duplicate this, all right? And press right click to leave it in the same position, press M and move it to the third layer. And as I said before, is because we are going to use this to create the bolt. And in the next tutorial, we are going to increase the amount of iterations of this to create the screw of the bolt, which is bigger than this one. All right. Okay, so we apply this. We go to the tab, to the edit mode with tab, and we can see how these vertices are not merged. And that is because they came from different iterations of the screw. So what we need to do is to just press A, press W, and merge them. W, remove doubles, and they will be already removed because they are exactly in the same position because we made the measure and we inserted the right measure to them to be in the same position. If we did it manually, maybe we should go ahead and here from remove doubles, we should increase the distance, all right? But increasing the distance would mean that, as you can see, these 2 points that are pretty close will also be welded, all right? So, well, I recommend to make the things exactly before we go ahead and apply them, okay? So we are going to save this. And now we are going to create the shape to fit this in our hole. All right, so what I need to do is to go into the edit mode, but before, let's press Alt-H to show the reference. And this reference, I'm going to go to the object panel and just tell Blender that it shows it only in wireframe. This way it's not so intrusive in our viewport. Okay, so let's go to the front view, press set to be able to know where it is. And we can go here and select the top loop of the reference and just press Shift S and cursor to select it. This way we will have the cursor right in the top of where the top of the hole is, because now we need to reduce all of this part that is over the top to put it down there. So I need to go to B to box selection and just drag this until the cursor, that way. Now we press point in the keyboard, so when we scale it down, it will scale to the cursor position, right? And press 0. So now we have it lined up right there. Now we select the reference and we make the same with the bottom part. So we select this bottom loop with Alt and right click, Shift S, cursor to selected. Let's go here, select the screw. Let's go to the front and just with V, click and drag to select that part. There we go. And scale it down in Z axis to 0. So now this would fit exactly our the hole in our nut, but we are going to hide this before with H. We have this, but before we start merging this with the real nut, we have a little problem here, and it's that we scale these vertices, but now we need to arrange them a little because they are, you know, here there are more than one vertex in the same place and things like that, because we just you know, brought them down. So we need to arrange that. And how we will do it is to merging stuff. So for merging stuff here, I'm going to go here, and instead of increments, I put the vertex, or right, the snap vertex, but I'm not going to activate this all the time, all right? Because if you have disactivated the snapping, it will happen all the time, as you can see, right? But that, well, could be nice, but I prefer to have it deactivated and just work when I press Control. Okay, so this way I can control when the selection is snapped to another selection. All right, so with this done, I set this again to medium point to make sure that if we scale something, it doesn't scale to the 3D cursor position, and we need to clean this up. So let's start right here. I'm going to the wireframe mode with set, or you can also go from here, from solid to wireframe. And here we have several vertices, so with control and left click, we drag. Now press G and move it here. We can do this and later press select everything, W, and remove doubles, but we can also go here to mesh and select here auto merge editing and activate it, right? We can see that now it's activated, and this means that if we move something and put it in the same position as the original one, they will merge automatically when we put it in the same place. Okay, now here it happens the same. Let's select that vertices, press G to move, control to stick it here, and let's go here. Doesn't matter if we create some triangles here. We're going to try to arrange that later, all right? And we will talk about cleaning that triangles later. So for now, let's go ahead and clean this mess. Right here is a little bit tricky. If we go to the front view, can see how these ones are already not in the line. Okay, so I think they are already cleaned. Okay. Okay. So let's press remove doubles just in case something was not there. Well, here is 25 removed vertices because of the bottom part. All right, in this part we have probably some vertices in the same position. Okay, so they have been cleaned. And now let's do exactly the same here. So we need to make sure that the vertices are in the same line as the center in which we are going to weld it. All right, so let's drag this, press Control. Let's go to the wireframe. Yeah, that is in line. So let's drag it. That looks like it's in line. Let's drag it. Same with this. And same with this. Same with this. And with this. With this. And here. And I think it's already done. Let's go to 1 to make sure everything is looking good. And let's go here and press B. Drag it. And as you can see, we have a exactly rectangular shape, which is exactly what we need to fit this into our nut. Okay, so let's go to the next step. Now we need to join this to the nut to keep going. All right. If you are worried about that triangles, we will try to clean them later. But before playing with the geometry in the borders, I want to make it join it with the nut, so then we can see the effect of that geometry. All right, because sometimes I play here with the geometry to make it all quads, and then when I weld this to the vertices in the nut, it doesn't look really good. Okay, so I prefer to join this before the nut. Sorry. So before that, I have here, if you can see, some dark areas. All right, some strange dark areas, and that is because when we weld different vertices and all that, sometimes the normals are messed up. So we select everything and press Ctrl N, and that will put the normals, all of them looking in the same direction, right? So now it's okay. So what I'm going to do is to press Alt H, select the reference, and this reference, just in case I need it in the next part of for the bolt. I don't think so, but well, who knows? So I'm going to press M and send it to the last layer, which is the layer that in other software I used to call it crap to hide. All right, so it's things that I probably never use or I never would want to see. So I send them there. It's like the trash. Right, so just in case we need it later. So I have this, and what I want to do is to press M and send it to the first layer. So now in the first layer we have the nut and we have the screw. So before going farther, if you remember, we had a mirror modifier here. So I don't want the screw to be mirrored because, well, it's already completed. So we need to go to the nut and apply the mirror modifier, because we want to join the screw at the top and at the bottom in different ways. So let's select the screw, then select the nut and press Ctrl J. So as you can see, we already have it joined, and we need to only merge that vertices. That if we press A here in the edit mode and press W, remove doubles, it would have already connected. And looks like it has. Well, not in the bottom, surprisingly. Let's select everything again, remove doubles, and looks like something is not exact right here. Weird. So let's try to just remove doubles and increase a little bit this amount. So now with that, it looks like it's welded. And 12 vertices removed, which is the amount of sides this has, so it's correct now. Right, so somehow we probably, when we scale down everything, we put the cursor, place the cursor in a little slider, so 0.001, or I don't know, I don't remember the default value for this, is not enough to weld that vertices. So this looks correct already, so press A again, Control N. As you can see, we can put the normals right again. And if we go out, we can see how it's already working. So this is pretty nice. So now we need to go ahead and try to clean the triangles and maybe detail a little more some parts. So let's analyze what we have to find where the triangles are. So you can see that here we have two triangles. We have another triangle here, and we have another triangle here. And I knew that we were going to have 4 triangles. The reason is because if we make everything with exact measures, the amount of triangles here depend on the amount of divisions we had in the profile of the thread. Okay, so if we go to the, let's go to the to this layer, we have the screw. We press, let me hide this. Okay, so we have this, and as you can see, the screw profile has 4 divisions, 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, that will generate 4 triangles. If we had 5 or 6, we would have 5 or 6 triangles. Now, the reason why I preferred pair number, right, 4 or 6, is because if we have 2 triangles pretty close together, we can just convert them in one quad. All right, or we can solve the situation because 2 triangles make a quad. All right, if we have one single triangle, that would be a problem. All right, because we would need to add a lot of geometry and stuff to arrange it. All right, so I made this on purpose, and as we made everything with exact measures, I'm pretty sure that at the bottom we will get a very similar situation that on the top, in which we have 2 triangles right here and 2 other triangles a little separated. These ones will be a little more tricky, probably. Not more tricky, but we will need more geometry to solve them. But these ones will be pretty simple, and I'm going to show you how to solve them. So let's analyze this. We have 2 triangles here. What I want to do is to pick this vertex and this one and merge them at last. So now, instead 2 triangles together here, we have 1 triangle here and another one here. So this will be pretty easy to solve. We select these 2 faces, press X, dissolve, and now we can paint another edge here with the knife tool with K. Right, so we put it into this vertex and drag it right here, and by pressing Ctrl, we snap it to the middle of this edge. Click and enter. So now, as you can see, we have 1 quad, another quad, and this is now a quad. Even if it looks a triangle, it has 4 sides, right? We could just move this with Shift B through this edge to make it look more like a quad, right? So now that is a quad. Now we have here this kind of bulge that we need to solve, right? And we will solve it by just moving this from the top. Let's just activate this on this view, and let's just drag it like this. Okay, so now that one is looking okay. Now, as you could see, we have this little bulge here, and it's because we have another triangle there. So we need to solve now these 2 triangles. These ones, I will solve them by doing this. I want to press X and dissolve this. So now I can just press the knife, go to this vertex here, and with Control, we are going to cut all these edges until we reach the other triangle. So now, as you can see, we have two quads here, sorry, and another quad here. And we had that there because this vertex here is making a little weird shape. So we can get closer, and with Alt S, we can move something into the normal. So something like this probably. Okay, this looks much better. That's some kind of a pinch, right? So we can arrange this by moving a little these ones. Here, maybe scaling this too a little. This is not exactly, this wouldn't be very valid for engineering stuff, but for the purpose of just representing a screw and a bolt and a nut in 3D, it's I think it's enough. Okay, so we already have the top part solved. Everything is quads. We could play a little more to just arrange that little shapes there. Okay, but well, that is just a matter of putting some more time on it, but I don't want to bore you by just being there pushing vertices. All right, so as you can see here, we have a very similar situation. We have two vertices there, two triangles, sorry. We have another triangle there and another triangle here. So let's do something very similar to what we did before. We select these ones, we dissolve them, and with the knife tool, let's press knife, keep Control press so we cut everything through the middle, and there we are, enter, there we have it. And now we can just arrange this a little, scale this up and get closer and scale this with Alt S a little out, like that. Okay, and these ones I just dissolved it and I didn't arrange it, so we can select these two vertices. As you can see, we have some pinch in there, and the pinches is that's why you shouldn't use triangles or n-gons. Right, here we have an n-gon, and this is the result. All right, we have pinches in the two sides, so we join this and we already have a quad there. Pretty nice. And now here we need to solve this. Right here, actually, I think there is something much faster than what I did at the top. Right, at the top, if you remember, what I did was converting this into a weld this, so I had here another triangle and then merge them. But actually here we have the two triangles together, so we can just dissolve them and we have already a quad. So what I made at the top, just forget it. It was pretty stupid. Okay, so we have that quads. So everything is quads now. And we have our nut with the screw. As I say, here this shape is not really very natural, right? We could start playing with it. We could just select this, press Ctrl E and rotate it, okay, to build something like that. I don't know, we could start playing with it a lot, right, until we get something that we really like. But I will let it be like it is now. Here, for example, we could play a little with this, okay, to get a more natural shape. But now we have a bulge there. Well, it's just a matter of finding the right shape, okay, looking to a reference to see how this really is. But I think that the purpose of this tutorial is already covered, which is just showing you how to build this nut. Well, the real purpose is not to build a nut, but is to show you a lot of modeling stuff and techniques, and take a part of a model to use as a reference for another one, to then merge them together, how to see measurements to make everything with exact lengths, and the screw stuff. So I think it's pretty interesting, and we can give it for done. So I hope you learned a lot from it, and see you in the next part, in which we are going to model the bolt and add the materials and everything to make the final render. So see you in the next tutorial, and happy blending. Yeah, I didn't forget it this time.